The fifth dimension and 5D consciousness. Still sounds a bit complicated and not really clear. Today I'm sharing the most simple explanation. Really, the simplest of all. But first, if you haven't subscribed yet, I would love if you subscribe, because then you help my channel to grow. And even if you like this video, you're really helping me. So we dive deep into the topic 5D and the fifth dimension. For my explanation today, I brought a pyramid, but it's way too small to show you, but it's the only one I have. Okay, what has this to do with the fifth dimension and 5D consciousness? Okay, five dimensions. That means it must have at least 4 dimensions before the fifth dimension. So how can you imagine that? The simplest way possible. And I want to start this video with the easiest explanation, and then we can dive deeper into it. But when you need only the simplest explanation, you will have that in just a minute. Now imagine the pyramid. If you look at the bottom, at the surface where the pyramid is built on, you can see that there are 4 points. You can think about that these are 4 dimensions. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Even if now you have to put a 5th point on it, you put it here, right? This is the 5th point of the pyramid. And now it is also the 5th dimension. Can you see the difference? Can you imagine what is the difference between these points, these 4 points, and the 5th point on top? Exactly. From this perspective, from the 5th point, you can watch over and see all the other 4 points. You can see all the other 4 dimensions through a completely different perspective. This was the easiest explanation. I hope it was really easy for you to let me know in the comments down below. I'm pretty sure you had this aha moment, because when this image came to me and I understood that image of the pyramid, it was like, oh, it's that easy? Okay, now I get it. Now I can work on it. And as I already told you in other videos, the fifth dimension is not a place. It's not a place where we will go and stay there. It's not a physical place. It's a point of perspective. It's a point of consciousness. It's another kind of consciousness, another kind of perspective. Do you see? If you're sitting here on top of the pyramid, you can watch over the other 4 points, the other 4 dimensions. But if you're only sitting here and the 5th dimension is not there, the other point, then you can only see the other ones. Now we dive deeper into the topic. The simplest explanation you already got, so you are fine, you're there. And now we dive a bit deeper. Let's check out the different perspectives so that we can understand better the 5th perspective. In the first, let's imagine that there's only this 1 point, the 1st dimension, 1 point. There's no other points. So what is your perspective? What is your perception? You're on 1 point and this is the only point that exists. Exactly. Your perspective, it's a point. It's where you are at, nowhere else. Then the second, if there's a second point, you can have the perspective of these 2 points. What do you see? A line, right? This is already a line. You can imagine, you have the perspective of here and the other place, a line. And with adding a 3rd dimension, you can now see that the things get more physical. You can have different perspectives. And as you can see here in my diagram that I made, so the 1st dimension, the 1st point is just a point of focus. Then the 2nd, it gets a bit more perspective. And with the 3rd, we have the physical form, this 3D reality that we are used to. But so, what is the 4th dimension? 4, when we got to the point 4. So I heard different explanations about it, but for me it's pretty clear, and it's what comes to me, and the information that comes to me is that the 4th dimension is where our thoughts are, our emotions, like everything that is not physical. Of course, this is even like the most materialistic person will tell you, yeah, thoughts exist, emotions exist. This is all here, but we cannot see it with our eyes. So it's not 3D. It must be something a bit different. So this for me is the 4th dimension. And it also means that we have this other perspective. We have the 3 dimensions, the physical, and when we add another point, a 4th point, then from this point there, from the fourth point, you can see the other three. So with your thoughts, and it's maybe the big difference also between us and animals, is that we can observe ourselves, our physical body that is in 3D. We can observe the world, we can think about it, we have emotions about it. So the fourth dimension is really this, it's just what we feel, what we think, our shadows also, and all this that we are working through to get to the fifth dimension. And when we're at a fifth point, the perspective changes again completely. Because when you're here and you can observe all the other dimensions, you start to understand. You start to understand why these dimensions work, why these dimensions are there. Like, how can that all work? Why does that physical body works like this? Why are the thoughts like this? Why the emotions? So it is a completely different perspective. What is also a big difference between the fourth dimension and the fifth dimension is that we go from the mind to the heart. And that's also why I don't like to over-explain the fifth dimension, because it's kind of not possible. And that's why sometimes it's really difficult to grasp this idea of 5 dimensions. So why can't we really explain it? You have to feel it. And it's also like, you can imagine, when you were here, imagining that you are on one dimension and you are just a point of focus, you just exist here in this point. Could you imagine a second and third dimension? Would it be possible? From if in your perspective and in your paradigm of life and of everything, there's just a point of focus, how can you imagine and how can someone explain you that there's a second dimension, that there's a line, that there are other forms, there's physical form, 3D, or that there are thoughts? Because exactly, you cannot even explain it, because if you're only on one dimension, on one point of focus, you would not even have thoughts, you would not even have emotion and this 4-dimensional reality. So can you understand that this is something difficult to understand? So if you have some problems to grasp this whole concept, don't worry. This is just because you are maybe still completely in 4 and 3D. But as the world is changing and as the energies are changing and you are watching this video, so for me it's completely clear that you are already transitioning to the 5th dimension. If you want to know if you have all these 5D signs, I will link my other video where I tell you 17 signs how you can see and understand if you're already shifting to the 5th dimension. But anyway, you will always arrive to these points while you're bouncing back and forth between the 4th and the 5th dimension, that you cannot really grasp this concept of the 5th dimension. That's because you're still also here. And we are watching up and we want to get here. But the problem is that we try, we think about it, we want to get there. But in the end, this is not the way how we will get there. The mind and where the emotions and where you can say emotions are from the heart, but they're so influenced by the mind. Like the mind is the place where your emotions start. If the mind is in a certain mindset, you will have certain emotions, so it's mostly in the mind. When we are always in the mind, it's difficult to get directly to the 5th dimension. So the mind is only a catalyst. It helps you. Today we have all these resources where we can learn about the 5th dimension, where we can learn to evolve, where we can learn to wake up, to raise our consciousness. Yes, we are doing this with our mind, but the mind only gives like this little fire. It helps you to go into the right direction, but sooner or later you have to go to the heart. If not, you will not be in the 5th dimension. But this is also something you don't have to worry about it, because you will get there if you're working on it. If you're working on your opening your heart, if you're working on all these 5th dimension things, then you will get there. Just remember that you don't have to understand it 100%, the 5th dimension, because also in the 2nd dimension you would not have understood the 3rd dimension. So what about this 5th dimension and the feeling of union and this oneness? What does that mean? It means that when you are in the 5th dimension and you can see the other dimensions, you start to understand. You start to understand that we are all connected. And someone who is really extremely in 3D and 4D, they do not have this kind of perspective because they only see on these other dimensions, and they have really problems to get to this, the fifth dimension, and to see that everything is connected, that we all are one, that we are all from the same source, that we are all here with kind of the same reason, the same missions. We are here to learn and grow. And when you understand and when you feel, I think the most important part is when you feel that that we are all one, you also start to forgive. You start to see, we have the perspective, right? To see the world in a different way. You start to see the big picture. Exactly. I always forget about this word because it's so important, the big picture. From here, you can see the big picture. I want to explain this feeling of union again in more easier words. So I'm pretty sure this will get you another aha moment where you think, oh, okay, now I understand. When you have a child, you have this unconditional love, usually. I don't know, I don't have children, but I guess it is like this. You have this unconditional love. You would do and give everything for that child. You love it unconditionally. Even if it hurts you, usually parents still love their children. So, why is it like that? Why do someone love their child unconditionally? Like this deep, like there's no other love like this. It is because it comes from you. It's a part of you. Like as a woman or a man, you have like all this time where this child is growing in the body and then it comes out, and it's a part of you. It's a continuous of your body, of your, maybe you feel it as a part of your soul. It's something that comes from you and is a part of you. So because it's a part of you, you love it unconditionally. And now imagine that every human on this planet Earth is a part of you. If you would feel that it's a part of you, you would love all the people unconditionally. And the thing is, and if you're spiritual or reading spiritual books or you're religious, you may have learned or may have heard that we are all one, that we all come from source, that we are all children of the same source. And that means that every human is a part of you. Like your child that is a part of you, also every other soul on this planet Earth is a part of you. We are all connected. So I hope this was clear. If you can start to just think or just grasp a bit of this concept that you love a child because it's your child, is a part of you, and if you think about that every other human is a part of you, then you would begin to love everyone. And I have to say, you don't have to let people hurt you. You don't have to say, oh yeah, of course, you can hurt me as much as you want. Everything is fine, cool, yeah. No, it's not like this. But usually, or what's the difference in perspective is that when you're here in the other four dimensions, if someone hurts you, you have also only this perspective. And that means it's hurting even more. It's really difficult. But when you go to the fifth dimension and when you have this other perspective, you may be hurt, but you can forgive. And as you see the big pictures, you understand why these things happen. Why is this person hurting you? This can be because this person is so hurt that they cannot do nothing else than hurting other people. Or you understand that this was a karmic bond, or that had to happen so that you could grow. You see from this perspective, you can understand why things are happening because you see the big pictures. And that's also then the point where you can forgive more easy, much easier. But to be able to feel unconditional love for everyone, I know it's not easy, there is something that you have to do before. The first thing is to love yourself unconditionally. It is not easy to see this big picture and love everyone unconditionally and forgive if you have not forgiven yourself and you have not loved yourself. So the first thing to do is to begin to love yourself. To that point where you can look in the mirror, look into your eyes, and from your heart feel love. Feel unconditional love and forgive yourself for everything that you have done. For everything. Forgiveness is one of the big topics in this current reality and this current shift. So when you start to forgive yourself for everything, you can also start to forgive other people. I hope all these explanations made your life a bit easier and a bit easier to understand the fifth dimension and the 5D consciousness. If you have more questions, please let me know in the comments down below. I have other videos about this topic on my channel. I will link them in the description, and also I will do more in the future. So that's why don't forget to subscribe. I would really love that, and giving this video a like, a thumbs up. And now don't forget to watch this video next, and I see you in the next one. Bye!